Thank you, Ms. Collins. Thank you, Dr. Cox Crewe and the board for this opportunity. And after the fourth time of doing this, you think it'd be a little bit easier, but it's not. But also, before we get started, just want to say congratulations on an amazing job as far as overall scores for the district. It's a pretty awesome honor to be a part of a distinguished district, and just want to say thank you for all that you do, not only for us, but our students, our community. So thank you. I also like to introduce my assistant principal that does an amazing job, Ms. Miotti. And so we'll go ahead and get started. Our points of pride for Twin Awful Middle School. This year we were classified once again as a proficient school by scoring in the 74th percentile out of all the middle schools in Kentucky with no areas of focus. And that's huge for us. We pride ourselves on, especially our special education department, making sure that we're looking at our students that are not performing up to par, looking at those students individually, putting a name with a face, owning those students, and doing whatever we can to get them up to par. So with that intentional focus, we met our growth goal for our GAP students, and our GAP students are our special education and our free and reduced lunch students. And our reading and math students at typical growth or higher. We were at 60% for the entire student population. And with that being said, we were above the state average. So we had a lot to celebrate. Just overall, we have an amazing school. We have just a wonderful group of students. We have a ton of community support, and I'm just thankful to be a part of it. So in 2014-15, what did we implement that positively impacted our student learning? According to our school report card for the 14-15 school year, our reading achievement was at a 74.6. The state average was at 66.4. Proficient distinguished, we were at a 60.2. The state average was a 53.8. And overall, we were at a 60.4 for reading typical growth. With those scores, we would have loved to have been a distinguished school. That is our drive and intent every day, to do what we can to be a distinguished school. But what helped us accomplish those scores, especially to get above the state average, we had Read 180, System 44, Expert 21, and what we do with those reading programs, they are very intent on looking at our low-performing students. With that, our teachers do an absolutely amazing job of seeing where their students are in the classroom, seeing what deficiencies they're having, and getting those kids to that next level. And with that, there's a lot of instructional strategies that are constantly being changed, trying to meet the needs of the individual students, and those are three of the most important programs that we implement, especially for reading. Our RTI program, we use that daily, and we have it broken down to where we do 2 quarters of reading, or 2 9 weeks of reading, and we'll do 2 quarters of math. And we are really intentional about seeing where our kids are. We map test 3 times a year, and after every map test, we look at our individual student scores, and we will group our students accordingly to their map scores to make sure that we have them grouped accordingly for RTI. And whatever deficit they have, or whatever they're really successful at, we will make sure those students are grouped, and we'll make sure during that 25 minutes daily of instructional time that we're doing whatever we can to push them to that next level. We've also implemented with Springboard. Our teachers, our leaders, they're actively participating in professional development throughout the district. Sometimes throughout the professional development, they will lead the professional development, but more importantly, they will come back, they'll work with our individual teachers, they'll make sure those instructional strategies are being implemented in the classroom. One of the things that we also pride ourselves on is, once again, looking at the individual student. Our students are scheduled based on MAP and K-Prep data, And we are constantly looking at that data, especially to make sure that once a student is placed in a specific class, they're not just left there. We're looking at their progress. We're looking to see if there's anything that we need to do as far as like scheduling or what instructional strategies that we could do to improve those students. Another thing that we do, we have, like I mentioned earlier, we have an amazing group of kids. I can't say enough about how well behaved they are, about how polite and respectful. And with that, we want to reward those. We want to single those kids out. They might not have all A's and B's or all A's, but they are doing the right things as far as being respectful, being polite, helping students out. So at least 2 times a year, Ms. Miotti and I will send out an email to the staff along with a certificate wanting all of our staff members to recognize a student, that are doing the right things. And we hope by singling those students out, by
recognizing the great things they are doing. Maybe they don't have the straight A's or straight B's, but they're working really hard.
Yeah, and hopefully, that will continue to build on and continue with our school climate and to help out. And another thing that we do as far as an amend team, we have individual teacher meetings and grade level teacher meetings to review MAP scores. And once again, we take the MAP test 3 times a year. We take it in the fall, we take it in the winter, and we take it in the spring. And every time that test is administered, it gives us as an amend team just a great amount of data to look at our students, to look at them individually, to look at them at groups, and to see where they are and to see what we can do to push them on to that next level. And with that being said, I can't say enough about how awesome our instructional, what's the word I'm looking for? The instructional consultants, yes. You have Mr. McCormick, Mrs. Barrett, Mrs. Brown, Dr. Stinson, and Mrs. Hicks. They do an absolute amazing job. Coming to the school, they're helping with implement new instructional strategies. They're giving us new ideas. Also, they work with our teachers to help push them forward, and they're always available. And so just want to thank you for having that opportunity to be able to work with them. Our math achievement was at a 77.3, while the state average was a 63.4. Proficient distinguished, we were at a 55.7, while the state average was at a 42.8. And we were at a 59.6 for reaching math typical growth. And some of the things that we did to get those scores, once again, we're really intentional at looking at MAP data and also at looking at K-Prep data. And we want to make sure that we have our students grouped accordingly with the right data points, and we're wanting to make sure that we're monitoring their success. If they're not being successful, we just don't want to leave them where they're at. We want to make sure that we're providing the tools and resources necessary to get them where they need to be. We added a Math 180 2-tier intervention class and also a Math Exploratory Tier 3 intervention class. And one of the things that we do, as mentioned previously, we MAP test 3 times a year. We really focus on getting our students ready for the MAP test. And before each MAP test, our teachers meet with the students. They go over our expectations. They go over the seriousness of it. And we also allow our students to have input by goal setting. And every time that they take the MAP test, we want to make sure that they're buying into it, that they're having ownership of it, and they're setting goals that's going to help them push them for the next level. So for our social studies achievement score, we were at an 85.8. State average was at a 75.4. And our proficient distinguished was at a 68.7, while the state average was at a 58.6. And what we did, we added a new elective class. It's a global issues class. It gives our students a different perspective, not just for like your 8th grade social studies content, but it also gives them like an overall global view of what's going on throughout the country. It makes them realize, what's going on just outside of their community, and we hope that broaden their horizon. We also brought in guest speakers that focused on specific content, and we also made sure with that elective class that it was intentional, that it was focused, and some of the skills that we added for that class, we wanted to make sure we had reading for understanding, reflection, responding, and also thinking critically. So beginning in August, what did we do to implement that is believed to positively impact student learning? One of the big things that we did, we totally restructured our response to intervention, or RTI program. We wanted to make sure that we had the right teachers in place that were teaching the right content. So if we had a teacher that felt more comfortable teaching reading, we made sure we assigned that teacher with reading. Or if we had a teacher that was more comfortable with math, we made sure we had, that teacher teaching math. And also we looked at last year's MAP scores, and over the summer we went through to make sure that each of the students were grouped accordingly, plus we also provided lessons, math and language arts, based on the different levels for the RTI, and we also went ahead and created those lessons to where the teachers didn't have to worry about it. They came in, they had a specific group of students that were at a certain level, and then they would also have the lesson that went along with the students at where they were. So with that being an intentional focus and a regrouping, once again, we honestly believe that this is going to be one of the things that catapult us forward to being a distinguished school. Also, every Thursday or every Tuesday and Thursday, Ms. Miotti and I have implemented an administrative student group. And what this is for those students that are struggling, that need that extra help or need that extra assistance, to where it's not a large classroom or a large group, but it's more of a focus group of 9 to 10 students. And we meet with those students every Tuesday, every Thursday for like an hour. And if they're needing any help, whether it's math, social studies, science, reading, we're there to help them. And we do that every Tuesday, every Thursday for an hour. After school, yeah. And also a new program that we've implemented. We've also started, with the help of Dr. Cox-Cruey, Mastery Connect. And this is a new program, and it's given our teachers, it's a wonderful tool. It monitors the students or the classroom to the individual student. Teachers are allowed to go in, or students go in, they're able to find lessons that differentiate according to like their specific needs. And like, let's say if they're struggling in a specific skill, it's going to have different resources, different areas to where that student just focuses on that skill. And the last thing, we've restructured our electives to 18 weeks. Hopefully by restructuring from 9 weeks to 18 weeks, this is going to allow for our elective teachers to go more in depth with their programs, to get more information out to the students, and also it's going to help them just have a greater impact, not only just for their class, but as far as like giving the students different ideas when it comes to writing and math. So that concludes my report.
You got 1 minute. Keep going.
Any questions?
I don't do all of it. We share.
We
it.
share it.
We share everything pretty much.
We're,
Tuesdays and Thursdays, do you search out these children for these administrative groups?
what it is, we have sort of, the individuals in the like the fighting line are the teachers. So they know firsthand like who's struggling in class, what the students are needing, and so what they'll do, they'll actually make the teacher contact or the parent contact for the student, and then they'll send the information to us as far as like who's going to stay, what they need help with. And so right after dismissal, we group them and divide up. And for an hour, I mean, that's our focus.
I am Jerry Klein, proud principal of Woodland Middle School. I brought along my right-hand man here, Mr. Dave Campbell. Before I begin getting into the meat of my presentation, I do want to thank you for your support, your continued support. Being a new principal, it's nice to know that I have the people, that people support me and have my back. I also want to thank and compliment our consultants, our district consultants. I worked with them when I was a teacher, assistant principal, and now principal. It's also a tremendous support to have when analyzing data and finding out what's best for kids. I also want to thank our district leaders, especially Ms. Harney sitting right next to me. Being a new principal, I've leaned on them, and I've leaned on her a whole lot here early, and they've steered me in the right direction. That includes Dr. Terry Cox-Cruey as well. And I want to thank Mr. Campbell. And I want to let you know before I begin, I've been in Kenton County for 14 years as a teacher, associate principal, assistant principal, now principal, coach, whole deal. I am proud. I am very proud to be a part of a distinguished school district. It's been a long time coming, and I've been here for, like I said, 14 years, and I'm really proud to be a part of it. I'm going to start by talking about 3 points of pride for Woodland Middle School, and this is kind of unique for me because I wasn't the principal last year, but we'll talk about some of these data points. The percent proficient distinguished with students with IEPs in reading went from 14.4% to 26.8%. That's a point of pride. We met our delivery target when it comes to reading students with IEPs. Percent proficient distinguished students with IEPs in math grew from 11.1% to 23.2%. We met our delivery target there. And percent proficient distinguished for all students in language mechanics went from 37.7 to 41.5. So those are 3 points of pride that I'm very proud of, and I know that we're going to be able to continue and push even further. I want to discuss at this moment what we did last year that positively impacted student learning. In our building, they developed a school-wide writing non-negotiables. Whenever a kid does any kind of writing piece or has to write a sentence or a warm-up, they have to follow this 5 criteria of the writing non-negotiables. And you've got it right there. I will always write and complete sentences. I will use proper English. I will start every sentence with a capital letter. I will always restate the question. And if I don't give 100%, I will be asked to resubmit it. And we have posters up in our building, and I've caught teachers intentionally having these conversations with kids and referring to the writing non-negotiables. Actually, at a couple of faculty meetings, I did some intentional positive shout-outs to teachers who I saw in the classroom using these writing non-negotiables. Now, beginning this year, what did Woodland Middle School implement beginning this year that's positively affecting student learning? Now I'm in the seat, now I'm the principal, now here's what we're doing. Teachers are meeting in targeted PLCs with administrators and consultants to focus on assessment results. When I talk about assessment results, we look at K-Prep, we look at MAP, we look at formative assessments, any kind of data we can get our hands on. But as previous principals have mentioned, we've really focused on the students that we have in the seats right now with teachers. Our K-Prep data across the board wasn't very good, okay? That's finished, that's over. We can look at the data to help us, but let's look at the kids we have in the seats right now and how can we move them. That's been our overall vision at Woodland since we've been meeting in PLCs. We can't change last year, but we can impact this year. And they're analyzing those various data points, as I've mentioned. Teachers have analyzed last year's K-Prep results, and they're doing this by looking at the current students they have at the percent proficient and distinguished from those students. They're using that data to reflect on instructional practices, and they're trying to set a foundation for specific goals with those students they have right now to increase the percent of proficient and distinguished. We have Math 180. We've implemented Math 180 in our building. This is new to Woodland. This is the first year we've implemented this program, this research-based program. We've had Scholastic visit our school a couple of times, and we've had excellent feedback. from Scholastic. She actually made the reference that your Math 180 teacher is a model, and that was awesome to hear. You can walk in her classroom and you can see, all these diagrams and all these pictures and all these shapes of student growth. You won't see actual student names, but students can see their growth on the bulletin board, which is it's a really neat thing. They can see their progress. PPR walks for each teacher at least once a month with specific feedback. I just did a couple this morning on 1 to 4 of the components of quality construction. What's interesting about this feedback is specific recommendations or reinforcements of what we're seeing in the classroom. That's how things are going to get better. What happens in those 4 walls and the feedback that we give those teachers and teachers giving other teachers, that's where kids are going to improve their skills. And we're going to see the needle move, so to speak, by getting in classrooms and offering specific intentional feedback to teachers. We do that through PPR walks. Continue refinement and implementation of Springboard in language arts and math, Read 180, System 44, Expert 21. Reinforcement of the writing non-negotiables that were developed last year. I have a hard-working staff. My writing teachers, at faculty meetings, we reinforce these writing non-negotiables, and they talk about writing at faculty meetings. Positive shout-outs I've mentioned before. Every teacher will submit a scored writing sample at each faculty meeting. I just mentioned we spend some time talking about writing and looking at student samples, because that's a big area where we had a big deficit, was writing. And that's something we've owned as a building. All of us are involved in improving writing, even Mr. Campbell and myself. Students using the MyOn program, this is a pilot program. Woodland is one of 3 schools in the Kenton County School District using the MyOn reading program. It's another tool we're using to get kids reading, both fiction and nonfiction. It's a web-based application where kids basically have access to books online. It's free access for the students. And what I'm going to do now is get into data just a little bit and let you know how we're working to improve the numbers there. When I looked at proficient and distinguished level in reading, if you take a look at that, only 49.5 of our students scored at proficient and distinguished in reading compared to 53.8 in the state and 58 in the district. Well, we've implemented RTI for students below the 40th percentile in reading that are not already in a targeted intervention program. So everyone below the 40th percentile, they are getting a targeted intervention. And what we're doing for those kids, we're using map results, and also I'm using some teacher feedback as well, some teacher input, and we're intentionally placing these students into a Compass Learning intervention. As you may or may not know, Compass Learning directly correlates the MAP score with the student. So we're kicking that off, and I just want to make sure everybody's getting everything they need. If students have a deficit, we want to do the best we can to fill those learning gaps. The admin team and consultants will meet with teachers and PLCs to identify and monitor student progress. We're going to progress monitor this Compass Learning. We're not just going to put them on there and say run free. You got to continuously progress monitor. When the next round of MAPS comes up here in just a couple of weeks, we'll see if scores have increased or not. It's continuous progress monitoring is what we're after and what we're doing. This next one is a new one we're doing, just as all this stuff's new. Read About It Tuesdays, something called Read About It Tuesdays and Encore classes. We're going to begin this tomorrow, actually. And every Tuesday in our Encore classes, students will be given a cold read with 3 multiple choice questions. As I go on here, you'll notice we have something called Write About It Wednesdays that we've been doing. But Read About It Tuesdays is new. Encore teachers will formatively assess and give feedback to the students. So they're going to take one day out of their week of an Encore class and focus on reading. And we know that social studies is an assessed area. A lot of those reading prompts are going to be social studies, history kind of based reading prompts. So we're kind of killing 2 birds with 1 stone there, working on reading comprehension and reading skills as well as social studies content. The next one I'm going to talk about is writing. 35.1% scored P&D level in writing compared to 39.2% in the state and 40.9% in the district. So we're a little behind there. We're going to do some Write About It Wednesdays, like I mentioned. Every Wednesday in Encore classes, students are going to be given a prompt, and they're going to write to that prompt. They'll need to construct at least a half a page paragraph and use the right non-negotiables, and teachers will give feedback and hold students accountable to the writing non-negotiables, as I've mentioned. This next one is a consistent building-wide on-demand calibration through working with an ELA consultant, Missy Hicks. On-demand writing scrimmage with all teachers scoring the pieces. All certified staff is involved in this. Dave, myself, the counselors, my special education teachers, all of us are involved in scoring the student on-demand writing samples. If it's going to be a priority, it's going to be a priority, and it's a building-wide priority. Like I mentioned, the math real quick, we fell at 43.7, so we need to climb. Math 180 we've implemented. Students who are below 30th percentile are in Math 180. And as I've mentioned before, students who are 40th percentile and below, we're going to get them into Compass. Okay? Let's see. Is that all she wrote? I got a little bit more. Okay, we got a little bit of time. I want to close out by letting you know this. We, at Woodland, we know what we have to do to increase student achievement. We know what the numbers are. We know there's a lot of work to do. I'm so excited to be in this position. I can hardly put words to it, but we're up to the challenge. We're fully up to the challenge. But I firmly believe we have the teachers and staff in place to do whatever it takes to fill in these gaps. I have teachers who aren't afraid to get in the trenches and work with students. We have a plan in place to push all students academically. We're up to the challenge, as I mentioned, and thank you for your time and all the support that you give us. First, board report in the books. Thank you.
Most of it, yes. He helps me, especially when he sees the stack growing on my desk on those days. But you know, he's also given me some insights and tips from his years as assistant principal, which have been helpful.
Well, you two are two fine gentlemen. If anybody could do it, you two.
Well, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
We look forward to next year.
Yes, I do too.
And you get this first year under your belt,
Yeah, yeah.
then you can really cheer, right?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Mhm.
I teach in the law school practice semester, and some of those writing non-negotiables we should share in that.
There you go.
We'll
Yes.
bring you a poster.
Yep.
Anything else? I know the MyOn program is new. How we monitor those types of results? What kind of results are we looking?
Well, it's mainly about, from what I've gathered, we ran all of our classes, all of our students have been through it. They have the opportunity to get on MyOn. So it's more of a, kids kind of learn the enjoyment of reading. I think I do have some teachers using it and using the data from it. For the most part, it's just a resource for kids if they want to read. It's just a nice free way of getting on a tablet, because you have to have a tablet or some type of computer device.
Anywhere you are, whether it's wireless, you can access it via the books that you want to read.
Yeah.
And it is set up so that it correlates with their assessment. So the exiles will tell you what's suggested.
Mm-hmm.
But students can go outside of that
Yep.
and choose things that they're really just interested in reading. So when you see kids holding their tablets, so the idea is that it will grow from school to the community. So when you're at the grocery store, the doctor's office, or wherever the student is with their tablet or their phone, they can read whatever it is they're interested in.
Mhm.
And he's working on the books, exactly.
And the kids have really been excited about it.
Mhm.
I mean, they're responding really well.
Good afternoon. I want to take this opportunity to thank you for meeting with me to find out about Turkeyfoot Middle School, and also just to thank you for the privilege of being a principal. I really enjoy that job, and I'm happy to be here to talk about it. I want to thank Dr. Cox-Crewy and the school board also for all the support that you offer. Having Miss Martha Setters here to help and guide me, and also to have the curriculum coaches that we have, is a tremendous asset for us, and I really appreciate that. I also want to publicly thank my administrative team, my teachers, and my students for their commitment to teaching and learning. I do have some points of pride. One, I'm happy to report that Turkeyfoot's a proficient school. Our overall score is the 80th percentile. We were happy to have a lot of growth in our reading score, increasing from 74% in 13-14 to 79.8 in 14-15. And we saw a reduction of novice in reading as well at 2.2%. Our percentage of proficient distinguished in math continues to be above the state average, and we're happy about that. And we were really excited to see an increase in the number of students scoring distinguished in language mechanics, moving from 15.4% to 28.4% in 14-15. What do we do in 14-15? When I reflect about this, and what we really did during the 14-15 school year, I think the most positive thing that we've done is use our map data to place students in the right places. That's how we place students in remedial classes. That's how we place students in Prep and Prep Plus. But it's also the way we place students in groups where they can work best and have differentiation happening for them every day. In reading last year, we added 2 sections of Read 180 and 4 sections of System 44. We think that could be a contributing factor in the reduction of novice. We also used that map data to place kids in all reading classes, allowing for that differentiation and perhaps leading to our reading growth. In math last year, we created a math RTI class using our map data. We had a certified teacher who worked with probably about 120 kids throughout the year using the Do the Math Now curriculum. We feel like that probably lent some success to the program, and I'll talk more about what we're doing this year in that way. We also feel like our math teachers are very good at implementing the Springboard curriculum with fidelity and participating in the MDC activities that are provided with our consultant. In all areas, both of these areas are, PLCs are focused on curriculum, and consultants are a great help with that. What have we done this year? Well, we're continuing to use that map data to group students. We feel like that will continue to help us grow. This year for our math RTI, we've added Math 180, a program that has a computer component that we think is going to push kids a little further, so that we're excited about what that's going to do this year. We've been able to keep our 4 periods of System 44 and 6 periods of Read 180, but we've added a special education teacher to those programs as well. So if a class has 20 kids in it, there are two teachers who actually can split those kids and kind of divide and conquer, we call it, and help them with their skills. We've added 5 periods of a program called E21, which is for students who are reading on grade level, but who are not quite ready for Springboard, the Springboard curriculum. This curriculum also uses a computer component, and we've been able to provide a classroom set of laptops twice a week for that teacher to use. That also has a special education teacher in the program with the regular ed teacher, so we feel like that's really going to help those students, moving them forward. 4 periods during the day are dedicated to differentiated instruction for our EL students. In addition to a teacher, we have instructional assistant who helps her in that classroom, and we've also implemented a new program called iLit that is designed to help them with reading. All of our staff were trained in the COM classroom, and it's being utilized 3 times a week. I probably should have used it before I started this. It's intended to help students focus and to be ready to learn. We also have 2 therapists in our building to address the mental health needs of all of our students. Based on our school report card, what must we do? Although our overall reading score increased, we noticed a significant, I guess there was not significant growth in our proficient distinguished percentages. So, to answer to that, we want to provide regular times for K-Prep-like reading tests using longer passages and providing quicker feedback for students. I'm sorry? Yes. Novice, apprentice, proficient, distinguished. Yeah. I have to think about that one, yeah. We want to ensure participation of all our EL teachers, ELA teachers, our social studies teachers, and science teachers in the LDC meetings, and increase the rigor in our Prep and Prep Plus classes. And we've done that by providing some additional text, adding an additional novel, and renewing our commitment to accountable talk. And that requires additional time spent with the consultants. So teachers are working hard in those PLCs. Our overall K-Prep math data showed a decrease from 79.5% in 13-14 to 75%. And our overall novice reduction was only 0.9%. So number one thing that we know is important is using that MAP data to place students. Math RTI is utilizing the new Math 180 program, and we really, again, think that's going to be a help. And there's a new emphasis on co-teaching in math classes when students are placed in low RIT classes, those who have a low RIT score on their MAP. We've made sure that we have a collaborative teacher in that room as well. So we not only have a regular math teacher, but we have a collaborating teacher in there. They're, again, providing two people to work with a class of kids who are low in math. We think that's going to really help the process. And additional PLC time, again, for math teachers with our district consultants. There was a significant decrease in our overall K-Prep writing score. And so we've done a couple of things. We've implemented a school-wide writing non-negotiables, things that everybody, no matter what the class, is using to work with students. We also have scheduled 3 math staff meetings to structure writing scrimmages. So we're going to have 3 writing scrimmages with our students, and then from that, based on the needs of those students, after we see the results, we'll have 2 writing workshops. We think that's going to be a real help for that. There's a significant difference in the percentage of proficient distinguished reading and math combined scores between regular ed students and students with disabilities and our EL students. And that's a concern for all of us. So, first thing we did is we had a PD for teachers where we disaggregated our K-Prep data, but rather than looking at what their kids from last year did, we really wanted to focus on what their kids this year, the kids that are sitting in their seats right now, did on the test, so that they would really have a good handle on what those kids knew and what their abilities were. And from there, they were asked to devise or identify some strategies that would really help those students individually. We utilize ESS to provide specific instructions for those students. Last year we used MAP data and had ESS for students on campus and an off-site setting as well for students who were below the 30th percentile on the MAP score, and we'll do that again this year. So we think that's going to be a big help. Setting MAP goals with individual students. I think our teachers do that as a general with all kids, but we have a teacher who specifically will be working with special education students in our EL population to do a My Plan for Success, where they actually review what their data is so they really know what it is, and then they also can set their individual goals. We have weekly meetings for special education teachers. The new EL program, iLit, using the new PPR form, walk form, we think that's going to enable us to give better feedback to teachers. Addition of more group counseling and classroom guidance class instruction. And then for 2 years, we have focused on the 3 components of quality instruction, and we're going to continue that focus. That means reviewing and rewriting learning targets, which are sent to us weekly, teachers using formative assessments daily in the classroom, and using those results to reteach and support students, researching, discussing various models of collaboration, and emphasizing individual responsibility with students. This is all-encompassing and ongoing, and we know with the individual coaching of our consultants and our CIA meetings, we're working to improve instruction in every classroom every day. When it comes to college and career, we don't have benchmarks anymore. We don't give the test for that. So what we have done instead is focus on the ILP. We have scheduled every 6th grader to be in what we call our practical living class, and she is working with students on careers, and then they start their ILP with her. So we feel like we can really build on this ILP so that as they go through 7th and 8th grade, they're going to have a strong beginning for high school. So the hope is that they'll have better understanding and continue to work on it throughout their middle school years. And that's pretty much it. Anybody have any questions for me?
So the Explorer test is gone.
Explorer test is gone.
Good, they already gave me my
So we're looking at other options, but right now, there isn't one. Yep.
Very good. Any
Talk
other
a lot about
questions?
your English learners. What is your population?
Oh geez, I'm sorry that you asked me that. I know that we have probably close to about 40 or 50 kids in our building. And they work 4 periods a day on various things, but we've just started this new program, ILIT. I can't tell you a whole lot about it because it's brand new, but we're hoping it's gonna move those kids forward.
What's your enrollment number?
Today, I think it's 1,089. Who knows what tomorrow will be? Changes daily. It's a big school.